Imagine discovering a company that has transformed an entire industry, partners with NASA and the US government, launches rockets more frequently than any of its competitors, operates the world's largest satellite internet network, and is working toward making humanity a multi-planetary species. Now imagine learning that this company isn't available on the stock market. That's the reality of SpaceX in 2026. While millions of investors search online every year asking how to buy SpaceX stock, the truth is far more complicated than most people realize. Some believe SpaceX could eventually become one of the most valuable companies in history, while others argue that its enormous valuation has already priced in years of future success. So, should you invest in SpaceX in 2026? Or is the excitement surrounding the company creating unrealistic expectations? In this video, we're cutting through the hype and looking at the facts. We'll explore how SpaceX became one of the world's most valuable private companies, where its revenue actually comes from, why investors are so eager to own a piece of it, and whether the opportunity is as incredible as it seems. To understand why SpaceX attracts so much attention, we have to go back to 2002. That was the year Elon Musk founded the company after making a fortune from PayPal. At the time, many experts believed private companies had little chance of competing in the space industry. Launching rockets was extremely expensive, government agencies dominated the sector, and failed launches often destroyed years of work along with hundreds of millions of dollars. Musk believed there had to be a better way. His vision wasn't simply to build another aerospace company. His goal was to dramatically reduce the cost of reaching space and eventually make human life possible on Mars. It sounded unrealistic, and many people dismissed the idea entirely. The early years were incredibly difficult. SpaceX experienced multiple launch failures that nearly bankrupted the company. After 3 unsuccessful Falcon 1 launches, SpaceX had enough money for only one final attempt. If that mission failed, the company would likely disappear forever. Fortunately, the 4th launch succeeded, proving that SpaceX could build reliable rockets. Shortly afterward, NASA awarded the company a major contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. That contract didn't just provide funding, it gave SpaceX credibility and helped transform it from a risky startup into a serious aerospace company. One of SpaceX's biggest breakthroughs came with the development of reusable rockets. Traditionally, rockets were used only once. After launching into space, most of the hardware was lost, making every mission extremely expensive. SpaceX challenged that model by designing the Falcon 9 rocket so that its first stage could return to Earth and land safely after launch. Watching a rocket booster descend from space and land upright seemed impossible just a few years earlier, yet SpaceX turned it into a routine operation. This innovation dramatically reduced launch costs because the same booster could be refurbished and flown again multiple times. Lower costs attracted more customers, increased launch frequency, and strengthened the company's competitive advantage. Today, Falcon 9 is considered one of the most reliable rockets ever built. SpaceX conducts launches for commercial satellite operators, scientific organizations, governments, defense agencies, and NASA. The company has transported astronauts to the International Space Station under NASA's Commercial Crew Program, ending America's dependence on Russian spacecraft for human spaceflight. Every successful mission reinforces confidence in SpaceX's technology and strengthens its reputation as the global leader in commercial launches. But rockets are only part of the story. One of the biggest reasons investors are excited about SpaceX is Starlink. While many people think of SpaceX as a rocket company, Starlink has become one of its most important businesses. Starlink is a satellite internet service that uses thousands of small satellites orbiting Earth to provide high-speed internet almost anywhere in the world. Instead of relying on traditional fiber optic cables or cell towers, customers connect directly to satellites in space. This technology is especially valuable in rural areas, remote communities, ships at sea, disaster zones, and regions where internet infrastructure is limited. Since its launch, Starlink has expanded rapidly across dozens of countries and attracted millions of customers. Individuals, businesses, airlines, maritime companies, emergency responders, and government organizations now rely on the service. During natural disasters and conflicts, Starlink has demonstrated its ability to restore communications when traditional networks fail, highlighting its strategic importance beyond commercial use. This growing customer base generates recurring subscription revenue, something many aerospace companies lack. Instead of earning money only when a rocket launches, SpaceX receives monthly payments from Starlink users, creating a more stable and diversified business model. Another reason investors are fascinated by SpaceX is its valuation. Over the past several years, private funding rounds have steadily increased the company's estimated worth. By 2026, SpaceX has been valued at well over $500 billion in private markets, making it one of the most valuable privately held companies in the world. That valuation places it alongside some of the largest public corporations, despite ordinary investors being unable to buy its shares through a stock exchange. This exclusivity has fueled enormous curiosity. Whenever news breaks about another funding round or higher valuation, online searches for "How do I invest in SpaceX?" surge once again. However, a high valuation alone doesn't guarantee a good investment. Many investors assume that because a company is valuable today, its stock will automatically deliver exceptional returns in the future. History shows that's not always true. Successful investing depends not only on owning a great company, but also on paying a reasonable price for it. Even extraordinary businesses can produce disappointing returns if investors buy at inflated valuations. That's why understanding how SpaceX earns money, what challenges it faces, and how future growth might unfold is just as important as admiring its technological achievements. SpaceX is also investing heavily in its next-generation rocket, Starship. Unlike Falcon 9, Starship is designed to carry much larger payloads and eventually transport people to the Moon and Mars. NASA has already selected a version of Starship to support future Artemis missions aimed at returning astronauts to the lunar surface. If Starship becomes fully operational, it could reduce launch costs even further and unlock entirely new markets, including large-scale satellite deployment, deep space exploration, and commercial space travel. But developing revolutionary technology is never easy. Starship still faces technical, regulatory, and operational challenges, and its long-term success is far from guaranteed. This brings us to the biggest question investors should ask. Is SpaceX simply an incredible company, or is it also an incredible investment? Those are not always the same thing. A business can dominate its industry while still carrying significant risks for investors. In the next part, we'll examine SpaceX's financial strengths, the risks that many people overlook, why most investors still can't buy SpaceX shares directly, and the smartest ways to gain exposure to the company's future growth. Now comes the question that every investor really wants answered. If SpaceX is such an extraordinary company, is it actually a smart investment in 2026? The answer isn't as simple as yes or no. Great companies don't always make great investments, especially if expectations become unrealistically high. That's why looking beyond the headlines is so important. Instead of focusing only on rocket launches and Elon Musk's ambitious vision, investors need to understand where the company's money comes from, how sustainable its growth is, and what risks could slow its momentum. The truth is that SpaceX today is much more than a rocket company. Launch services remain a major part of the business, but Starlink has evolved into one of its biggest revenue engines. With millions of customers across more than 160 countries and continued subscriber growth, Starlink generates recurring monthly income rather than relying solely on launch contracts. Recent reports indicate that Starlink's subscriber base has continued to expand rapidly, reinforcing its position as one of the world's leading satellite internet providers. Another important source of revenue comes from government partnerships. SpaceX works closely with NASA, the U.S. Space Force, and other government agencies on missions ranging from satellite launches to lunar exploration. These long-term contracts provide stable income and strengthen the company's reputation as a trusted aerospace partner. Government business has become a meaningful part of SpaceX's overall revenue, helping reduce dependence on commercial customers alone. Then there's Starship, the project that many believe could define the company's future. Unlike Falcon 9, Starship is designed to carry much heavier payloads, support missions to the Moon, and eventually transport humans to Mars. If SpaceX succeeds in making Starship fully reusable, the cost of reaching space could fall dramatically once again. That would create opportunities not just for satellite launches, but for entirely new industries, including space manufacturing, deep space exploration, and even commercial travel beyond Earth. However, investors should remember that revolutionary technology also comes with engineering, regulatory, and financial risks. Delays, test failures, or unexpected costs could slow progress, even if the long-term vision remains intact. Analysts continue to view Starship's successful development as one of the most important factors supporting SpaceX's long-term valuation. Of course, no investment is without risk. One of the biggest concerns is valuation. A company can be exceptional while still being priced for perfection. If future growth fails to meet investors' expectations, the share price can suffer even if the business itself continues to improve. Competition is another factor. Amazon's Project Kuiper and other satellite internet providers are investing billions of dollars to challenge Starlink. Although SpaceX currently enjoys a significant lead in launch capability and satellite deployment, maintaining that advantage will require continuous innovation and massive capital investment. Another reality that many people overlook is Elon Musk himself. His leadership has been central to SpaceX's success, but his involvement in multiple companies means investors often associate the entire business with one individual. While Musk's vision has driven remarkable innovation, leadership concentration also creates uncertainty if priorities shift or management changes over time. For many years, the biggest obstacle for ordinary investors was simple. SpaceX wasn't publicly traded. Access was largely limited to employees, venture capital firms, and institutional investors through private funding rounds. That exclusivity helped fuel the company's mystique. Millions of people searched for ways to invest, but only a small group could actually own shares. Whether private or public, the same principle applies. Investors should understand the business before investing, rather than chasing headlines or social media excitement. So, should you invest in SpaceX in 2026? If you're looking at the fundamentals, the company has several powerful advantages. It dominates the commercial launch industry, operates one of the fastest-growing satellite internet businesses in the world, maintains valuable government partnerships, and continues investing in technologies that could reshape the global economy. Few companies possess such a combination of innovation, engineering talent, and long-term ambition. But investing isn't about buying the most exciting story, it's about weighing opportunity against risk. Future returns will depend on factors such as Starlink's continued growth, Starship's successful development, competitive pressure, execution, profitability, and whether the market's expectations remain realistic. Even the world's best companies can experience periods of volatility if growth slows or investors become overly optimistic. Perhaps the biggest lesson from SpaceX isn't just about rockets or satellites. It's about thinking long-term. The company spent years facing failures before becoming an industry leader. It challenged assumptions that experts considered impossible and built technologies that transformed the economics of spaceflight. That mindset, solving difficult problems through innovation, is what makes SpaceX one of the most closely watched companies on the planet. As an investor, your job isn't to follow hype. It's to study the facts, understand the risks, and make decisions based on evidence rather than emotion. SpaceX has already changed the space industry forever, and its influence is likely to continue growing for years to come. Whether it ultimately becomes one of the greatest investments of this generation will depend not only on its ability to innovate, but also on its ability to deliver sustainable financial results while living up to the enormous expectations placed upon it. One thing is certain, the race for the future of space has already begun, and SpaceX is leading from the front. Whether you're an investor, a technology enthusiast, or simply someone fascinated by humanity's next giant leap, the company's journey is one worth watching closely. The next chapter could redefine not only how we travel beyond Earth, but also how the global economy operates in the decades ahead. And that is exactly why the question, should you invest in SpaceX in 2026, has become one of the most important investment questions of our time.